All right, lads and lasses, and good day, mates. Welcome to the Toon podcast. Newcastle to Forest Nout at St James's Park. I'm Lee. I am in the sporting capital of Australia, which would be Brisbane. Dimi's somewhere south in Mexico somewhere. How are you going, Dimi?
Good, mate. Glad we got the win this morning because I only managed to get a couple of hours sleep last night because I'm just sick for live sport. So at least we got the result to satisfy my lack of sleep.
Mate, I tell you what, that first half, I'm surprised you
It
were.
was rough.
I'm surprised you were still awake at half time. Jesus Christ, I was struggling as well. Obviously, it was a little bit later for you with the times changing and that, but so Newcastle 2, Forest Nout, our first win consecutively in this season. Obviously, not in the Premier League. It's across all competitions. Haven't beaten Union What's the Faces on Wednesday, so 2 games in a row, 2 wins. Nice to lift the mood around the club. I think there's been 1 or 2 little people getting a little bit antsy about the lack of wins and lack of goals in some cases as well, and not being able to see our games. Before we get onto the teams and well, not the first half, because as I said, nothing happens, but we'll get onto the goals in the second half. Just want to talk about Ange a little bit, first of all. Now, he obviously got the boot from Spurs, having won his second season trophy. Did well, in fairness, in the Europa League. And then he's been picked up by Marinakis, your mate from Greece. Which was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people that Nuno got the boot in the first place, even despite kind of some of the shenanigans going on and off the field that we'd all been observing. But nonetheless, Ange took the job. Coming at this game, 6 games, no wins. It's now 7 games, no wins. What do you make of Ange coming back into the sport, first of all, so quickly? I guess that's kind of to be expected, but he's went from Spurs down to Forest. I say down, I mean, you know, in the modern day world of the football, I guess you'd say Spurs are the more competent team. Forest have just came up from the Championship a couple of seasons ago as well. Are you surprised that it came back so quickly? And probably more what I'm interested in is your mate Marinakis. Do you reckon he would really, I mean, I know you don't know him personally, but you're Greek and he's Greek and Andrew's kind of Greekish. So, you know, there's obviously some information flowing in the back channels, I would imagine. So can you imagine if Marinakis, a situation where he might actually bin off Ange 7 games into his job?
Yeah. So first of all, he's not my mate. I'll just make that crystal clear.
You're all mates.
He's a he's a scumbag, but we'll leave that for another podcast. But no, he's got the same tendency as most other Greek football owners or Greek football hierarchy. They got quick trigger fingers. So if things don't go well in the Greek league, 3-4 games, you're done. You're out. I mean, my
Really?
team, Panathinaikos, their manager got us into the Europa League. We beat Shakhtar Donetsk over 2 legs. The first 2 league games of the season, we picked up 1 point, and he was sacked. So they don't muck around in Greece, and Greek owners would be are the same. So it worries me, to be honest, because obviously, yeah, I love Ange. He's an Aussie. He's a Greek Aussie. He's made his name, made his career in Australia. Started at South Melbourne here in Melbourne, lifting a trophy as captain, and then coached South Melbourne to back-to-back championships here in Australia in the national competition. So obviously, yeah, I wanted to do really well, but it was a weird decision for him to take the job this early, because he hasn't had a transfer window to pick the players that he wants. He hasn't had an off season to mold the players, to train them the way he wants to play. And Ange is in a good way, he's a very stubborn manager. He will only do it his way, and he'll only want to pick players who want to play his way. But he's sort of been thrust into this team saying, here's your players, you deal with it. You have to make the best of what you've got at the moment, and sort of good luck. And Ange is not that sort of manager. He takes time to build things. He takes time to build clubs, build cultures. And the Premier League's not like that. You don't get results, the fans will turn very quickly. And obviously Nuno had great success at Forest. Obviously there was other stuff in the background that he didn't agree with, and they parted ways. But yeah, it's not looking good for Big Ange, because sooner or later, if the results don't come, the trigger figure is going to be too quick from Marinakis, and yeah, he's going to be gone, and it's going to be, in my opinion, if he's going to be sacked from 2 clubs in 2 years in the Premier League, it might sort of torpedo his Premier League coaching career for the next few years, because I'm not sure another Premier League team would take him on if he gets the sack here. I'd find it hard to believe another team takes him, and that would be sad, because I think he deserves a proper go at it. He didn't really get a proper go at Tottenham either. He obviously won the Europa League and got him in the Champions League, which is great. League-wise, he wasn't great last season, but I just want to see him having a chance and having a chance to build a club. But yeah, you don't have time in the Premier League, and especially not with an owner like him.
So what you're basically saying after all that is that you Greeks are mad. You're all just a bunch of mad lunatics, hotheads.
Well,
you just said that.
Can't confirm or deny, but yeah, spot on.
I think you just did. All right, let's have a look at the teams. So Howe decided to stick to this with the same starting 11 as against Union, and I kind of assume that's because it's yet another international break right after this one. So he figured I might as well use the same team, carry that sort of good feelings into this one, then everyone could have a bit of a break. It was Pope, Trippier, Botman, Jolinton, Tonali, Gordon, Chow, Elanga, Big Nick, Big Burn, and Big Bruno. I wish I would stop bloody organising these things by number. It's bloody awful. Lewis Hall. Tell us about Lewis Hall. What happened to him, Dimi?
Yeah, so unfortunately, he's done a hammy. It looks like. So it sounds like from Eddie, it's not a short-term injury, but Eddie's usually very cryptic with his words about injuries, and it seems like Hall's going to get a scan, but it is worrying and frustrating, because obviously we just lost Tino, and yes, it's a good result that Tino didn't do his ACL, but he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. If Hall's done a severe hamstring, he could be out for 5, 6, 7 weeks, and all of a sudden we've gone from having 4 or 5 fullbacks to 1 or 2. So it's a massive blow. People forget as well, Lewis Hall was probably our player of the season up until he got injured last year. He was fantastic for us.
Amazing.
He really changed the way, or was part of the way we changed how we played, in terms of 2 fullbacks who could play both ways. Obviously, Burn, when he first came into the side at Newcastle, he was playing at left back, and he did well at left back, but he's not an attacking left back. He's only there for his defensive capabilities and leadership, etc. But Lewis Hall was different, and I thought he was superb before he got injured last year. So if he's going to be out for similar time frame to Tino, yeah, it's going to really stretch us, and it is quite worrying that that defense is going to start to look very, very slow and old.
Well, especially if you look at the bench here, we've got Ramsdale, Shaw, The Sells, Barnes, Kraft, Osula, Murphy, Willock, and Miley, and it's really only Kraft who could fill in one of those full-back positions, unless you're going to start sticking Murphy at full-back, which, yeah, in a defensive setup, fine. But if you're trying to go forwards and win the game, you want Murphy further up the pitch. So as we saw in this game, when he came on, he did some pretty decent crosses into the area that we didn't really get that much of from Elanga. So, he does bring, at the moment at least, something different, and you don't want him at the back. And Kraft, my boy Kraft, he's on his day, he can be really good. When it's not his day, he's kind of meh. So it's going to be interesting to see what Howe does with this going forward into all these other fixtures that we've got coming up, and who he's going to try and rotate in those full-back positions. God help us if we get another injury back there. Let's look at Forest, and it was Matt Sells in goal, who's having a hell of a career at Forest. Williams, Morato, our boy Anderson, Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood, Ndoye, Yates, Jakuna Milenkovic, and Savona. I thought what was interesting in this one was, they had a pretty substantial injury to that centre-back guy whose name is now escaping me. What's his name?
Murillo.
Yeah, and he's really good defender. But I thought what was interesting for this setup was that I think the general consensus was that it was going to be another typical Ange high line, suicidal forward play, balls over the top, and you basically skin them, and it'll be a cricket score, And I was I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't think it'd be like something like that. I thought maybe it would be a draw, but a lot of people I was looking around at were saying, "Oh, it's 5-0s and 7-0s and 7-1s and things like that." But for all of the talk of Ange saying like, "Oh, that's who we are, mate," and refusing to change until he got to the final of the Europa League, he actually went and did something different in this game, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and I think it probably caught us by surprise as well. I don't think Eddie would have expected them to play three at the back. He very rarely in his managerial career, if ever, has played three at the back, and it's not something you can plan for. You don't plan for Ange to do that, but I think he knows Postecoglou at this point. He needs results, and he's desperate just for any sort of result or any sort of momentum. So I think in his head he thought, look, let's start with three at the back. We've just played in Europe on Thursday night, had a bad result. Let's see how we go an hour in. If the scores are still level, maybe we release the shackles and then go for it. But it definitely caught us by surprise and probably contributed to the first half looking as shit as it did, really, because Forest were pretty comfortable defensively. We had the ball in the middle third, but never looked likely. And yeah, it was sort of a nothing first half.
Yeah, it was largely kind of balls between the goals, wasn't it? Really, there was nothing much in the goal mouths themselves. I mean, there was a couple of opportunities there from Joelinton, but almost nothing else really to talk about. I did think, I mean, this is not to do with how the performance was going, but well, maybe it was a little bit, but I did think it was kind of a weird crowd at St. James's Park. Like it felt like a very subdued or
very passive.
Or passive, disinterested in some cases. And I wonder how much of this was down to the way the referee was constantly stop-starting this game, particularly in the first half. I mean, he continued to do a little bit in the second as well, but this first half, and with referees, when they set up their stall early and they say, right, I'm going to blow my whistle for that and that and that and that, and the players go, oh, well, you know what? If you're going to start blowing your whistle for every little thing, I'm just going to start chucking himself to the ground. Why not? Because I already know that you're going to give me the free. It felt very much like that. The ref was Peter Banks. I saw a stat. I don't know if it's true, but he gave up something like 30 fouls, 14 to us, 16 to them. I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of those fouls were in the first bloody half, to be honest with you. But it almost kind of played into Forest's hands in some ways. Like if the home team is trying to get up and get going, and you need that sort of support, the local support in the crowd to get behind you, and the goddamn referee keeps blowing his bloody whistle and stop starting everything and frustrating everyone. I suppose it's natural, right? At some point that the crowd would be like, oh, this is dog shit, this game. We can't get going. Stop start all the time. Nothing's happening. Nothing in the goals. And like, as you say, they get a bit passive.
Yeah, it was very stop start, and there wasn't that high energy from us either, to be honest, because obviously, we're coming off a midweek game as well as they are. We didn't come out in the first 10, 15 minutes like we probably normally would in a Premier League game and just go all guns blazing, pressing like crazy. I mean, that could have also been because of the way Forest set up. It maybe threw us at the start of the game, but definitely the stop-start nature of the game. That's exactly what Forest wanted. They wanted to stop the game, slow the game down. They wanted to play on the break and try and expose Dan Burn at the left. They kept getting Gibbs White in behind him. That was their only move the whole first half was a diagonal or a through ball in behind Dan Burn or in behind Botman, and see what happened. But it definitely was, I think, part of the game plan for Forest. Let's look. We've come here, set our stall, be hard to beat, stop the game. Don't let Newcastle play. Get the crowd frustrated, and we'll see where we are at halftime.
Frustrated, bloody hell, that's an understatement. Honestly, I was sitting there. It was midnight by this time at halftime. I'm sitting there thinking, what is the point? What, this is one of the worst first halves I've seen for ages. It's absolute dog shit. And I was thinking, I've seen enough games in my time. I've seen enough games when I was a lad, and I've seen enough of them where they kind of just peter out in the second half, and it's much of the same, or the opposition might nick a goal, and I was this close, just like tossing it all in and going to bed. But it's a public holiday today, so I thought, well, screw it. It's my lie-in, so I might as well watch it anyway, and I can have a good sook if it's terrible, which is one of my favorite pastimes. On a good old whinge. Second half though, I'm glad I did stick with it because we did actually come out with a bit more purpose in the second half, and we finally get the goal that we were all desperate for on the 60th minute. Bruno He robs Morgan Gibbs-White in the midfield area. It didn't look like a lot in it, but he's like tossing himself around like a pork chop on the ground. Burn picks up the ball, marches forward, squares it off to Bruno, who kind of turns, sees he's got a little bit of space. And it wasn't a lot of space, to be fair, but he sees the corner of the goal just sitting there waiting for it. And he curls in an absolute beauty into the far corner. When that went in, I'm like, but where is VAR? Let's get VAR on the case here, because I know what's going to happen. It's been this way all day. You know, referees been screwing us, giving them fouls and everything. Let's just wait to see what happens. And amazingly, they didn't. But that's probably on par with some of their other decisions in that game as well, which we'll get to in a second. But how good was that? How good was that finish in the far corner?
He's got a habit, Bruno, of scoring against Forest. It feels like he's scored every year against Forest. He scored a couple of crackers from outside the box. I remember one he scored. I think it was the winner at their ground one year when we won 3-2. He's not a great goal scorer, but he can score great goals, if that makes sense. For someone who is known as a sort of a distributor and a cutter in the middle of the park, his shooting is actually very accurate when he does want to have a shot. And he does have a habit of picking the corners and sort of spotting the keepers off their line. And it didn't look like much of a chance from when he was shooting, but he knew exactly what he was doing. He saw Sells was slightly off his line. If he could lift the ball over into the sort of over the keeper into the top corner, he wouldn't have the angle to cut it off. So fair play to Bruno. I mean, we needed, obviously, we did start better in the second half, but it felt like the game needed some sort of bit of magic, a bit of something, because I had it back in my head. I'm like, shit, this is one of those games where we might be pushing. There could be a couple of chances, and they're going to nick some ass deflected goal in the 90th minute, and it's just going to ruin your next 2 weeks of the international break. But no, it was a big moment, and I'm glad the ref didn't blow that foul, because the way Gibbs-White fell over, you'd be right to think it may have been a foul, because he did throw himself down like an idiot. But the
ref was right there. The ref was standing right there.
Yeah. And Gibbs-White was doing it a few times during the game, and he was getting foul calls in a similar situation like that. So, I mean, the referee could have fallen for it. Luckily for us, he did it. And then, I mean, the other lucky thing was Dan Burn. I think the crowd was yelling him to shoot as he's charging forward. I'm like, no, do not shoot.
Do not shoot. Yeah,
just get out of the way. And he did the right thing, found Bruno, and then he did the rest.
What do you make of that celebration at the end after he's in the corner? Do you see what he was doing?
Yeah, like a little flick of the cards. I don't know what it is. Apparently, I read.
Well, he said, "I just play a lot of cards." This is the kind of modern life of a professional footballer. So that celebration was something for them. I guess he means the crowd, and I hope they enjoyed it. Mate, we were just confused. I don't know.
It was very confusing. Yeah, look, even if you do play cards, I mean, I'm not sure anyone's done a celebration like that before. I'm like, cards are great pastime, but I'm not too sure if it deserves a bit of a solo celebration like that. But look, he scored the great goal. That's what he wanted to do. It's okay. Bruno can do whatever he wants. To be honest, he's God up on Tyneside.
We are very lucky to have him, and he's pointing to the badge as he peels away as well. I mean, he's fully invested in the whole Newcastle thing, isn't he? We've done so well with the background check on his no dickhead policy kind of thing, and Bruno is the epitome of a squad player, club man. He's really, really good. Just touching again on VAR, so they decided there was nothing much in that challenge on Gibbs-White, which there wasn't. But they also made some interesting calls throughout the rest of the second half. In particular, there was 2 on Dan Burn. He was on the edge of the box waiting for a set piece to come in. I can't remember who it was from the Forest. It was one of their defenders.
Number 4, whatever he is.
And he's basically got his arms around him. And as Dan Burn tries to go towards the ball, he's just wrapped up and Burn goes to ground. VAR, according to the commentators, VAR said that there wasn't enough in it to take him to the ground, and as well, quite confusingly, the commentators, I think it was Michael Bridges, who absolutely hates us, but anyway, he said, I don't think that's a penalty because Burn was getting nowhere near the ball, and it's like, well, how the fuck do we know? He's on the ground.
But that doesn't even matter. He's been
rugby tackled to the ground. How do we know where he was going to go? And he was running towards where the ball went. After all, it might have been a few meters away, but who knows? He's like 16 feet tall. And then, but to rub it in, then they reset that piece. a set piece, exactly the same, and the guy goes and does the same fucking thing again, and still nothing is given for it. And you know, coming into the season, I thought there was a rule about this holding in the box. That they were going to clamp down on it. I had to look it up, and I did find something saying that for specifically holding, there will be enhanced recognition of holding offences on field. Doesn't look like it. Officials will be encouraged to identify and penalise offences, with referees' call continuing to be used for checks made by VAR. So it's possible, I suppose, in some ways, because the ref didn't blow for that VAR's looked at it and went, you know what, it's 50-50 here, but the referees decided on field that it's not, so we'll not overturn it. But like, just the eye test, the smell test, were you the same as me when you saw Burn getting bundled over, especially the first time, that looked like a cast iron penalty to you?
It's such a frustrating thing because, I mean, you can say that happens in a lot of set pieces, but it doesn't really happen like that, where the guy's pulling the other player down. And Burns a big man. He's not going to just fall down. You wouldn't think for no contact. But the annoying thing there was it happened again. I mean, they called the first one no foul, but then he did it again and then again. And there was a third one, I think, where he blew the whistle right before the corner came in.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And it would have been a clear
That's
penalty.
right.
But the referee, for some reason, said, "I'm going to give this guy talking to for the third time just to make sure he knows I'm watching." Well, instead of making sure you're watching, just blow the foul. That's how the behaviour will stop. Not your little chit chats, because the players take that. The players aren't listening to what the referee's saying. They're saying, "Look at this clown. He's just going to keep talking to us. Look at me, referee, making these big chats with the captains or big chats with the offenders." But I mean, as it happened the third time, he had to blow the whistle, because if you don't, like you said earlier, the players will keep doing it. They'll just keep doing it because I know they'll get away with it.
Yeah.
And you lose control. And it's funny when they say they're going to crack down on those things. I reckon I haven't seen maybe one penalty I've seen all season with holding the box. You really have to throw yourself forward, like a pork chop to get a penalty. And obviously no one wants to do that. But if that's what's going to take to get a penalty in front of the referee, well, so be it.
Yeah, I think it was Nick last time, wasn't it, who said, I'm not the kind of person to do that sort of thing. But, you know, if it is that way, and you can see with your own eyeballs as a player that this referee isn't giving the correct decisions in these situations, then you kind of do have to lead him by the hand and be like, I'm going to make you make a decision for me, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. But just on that, just with Nick, just compare the penalty we got against Union in the Champions League. There was a slight tug of the shirt, but nothing enormous. And then there's rugby tackles going on in the box every set piece. And
careful though, mate. Careful. You're starting to sound like On It's Not now. On It's Not was all like, yes, you know, in Champions League this was penalty, but not in the Premier League, different standards.
It is different standards. That's a good impersonation, by the way. But it is different standards. But I mean, they're both fouls, and for some reason in England, it's gone on too long where that sort of thing happens. And Arsenal have, fair play to them, they've taken advantage of it, because they turn their corners into some sort of maul on top of the keeper, and they've done well, and they score goals like that. But it's gone too far, the pulling and the holding in the box, because it's just not that's not football.
Yeah, that was my Stephen McCarran impression, by the way. It's just as well that we didn't lose out to that bad or indecision, because wasn't that long afterwards that Chris Woods finds himself in a bit of space in front of goal. I mean, fortunately he's offside, but that move was coming on the back of 2 or 3 minutes of strong play from Forest as they kind of walk up from that goal down. And like, we could have been at 1-1 there. And I wouldn't put any money on us going on to see that game out, to be honest with you. Even get a point. Nick Pope will probably do a shit distribution in the 96th minute again. Ball comes straight back, and it'll be like bloody 2-1. They'll be like, oh, fucking Jesus, I'm done with this game altogether, you know? So, but fortunately, we got away with it, because on the 84th minute, we do finally get a penalty. I say finally. We do get a penalty. Old mate Ando, he must have been thinking, you know what? I don't like this Ange fella. We're not going to win this anyway. I am black and white through and through. I'm going to do everyone a favor here at St. James's Park. But now what really happens is he picks up the ball. He doesn't get a call from anybody, I don't think. So he's not aware that Bruno is coming in on him on his blind side. But when you see the foul, it looks clear as day, like an absolute foul. It's not one of those ones where Anthony Gordon sort of sneaks up behind someone like a bloody burglar and then sticks his foot in the way as they're about to kick it and gets a penalty out of it. It was more like he's coming in to take the ball off my feet, and then he sort of almost 2-foot lunges right into Bruno and takes him down like a scissor kick, doesn't he? So I don't think there was any concerns about whether or not that was a penalty or not. I think it pretty much definitely was. But fuck me, far out. What a penalty this was from Big Nick. Obviously, Gordon's been substituted at this point, so it's Big Nick. He grabs the ball. He's been banging on the drum to say, I want to take these penalties. What you doing? I'm a striker. Could have had a hat trick probably in the last game, but Gordon took 2 of them. I want to show you just this little video because I don't know if it really conveys the weirdness of the kick, but I'll just play it here. It's from behind the goal for anyone listening. The better angle, which I couldn't find, was actually behind Nick, because it is such a strange technique, isn't it? I mean, I've got some stills here where, on the one hand, this looks like a normal kick. You're like, yeah, all right, he's just kicked the ball. But then on the other hand, it looks like he's crossed his legs and he's looking down the goal as the ball goes off into the far corner. When he first took that kick, my instinct was like, oh, Jesus, it's going to hit the dead pigeon in the roof here. It felt like one of those absolute ballooners. But I don't think I've ever seen a more pinpoint. Well, maybe it's from Shearer. Maybe it's from Shearer, but Shearer takes up like a 100-meter dash, 100-meter run up to his kick and just absolutely blammels it. Nick here, on the other hand, he kind of just took a few steps, as we just saw there, and then sort of pivots around his own standing left leg and kind of crosses his legs and sends the ball in the top far corner on the left as we were looking at it. What a penalty.
Unbelievable. I mean, as he's walking up, you're definitely not thinking that's going top bins. You're thinking he's going to do something tricky. He's going to do a little feint, a little chip down the middle. But I mean, to generate the power from about 3 steps, and you're right, he's a massive unit, so it's not easy to be coordinated like that with your legs and be able to just launch one into the top corner.
You can see here, Sills is just absolutely rooted.
You're off the boot though. Like before, I saw the crowd and sort of ripple. I'm like, oh, this has gone over the bar because he's just launched it.
Yeah,
and because he's hit it like that well, it's gone right where the spiders are in the top.
Yeah,
and I mean, if he's going to hit penalties like that, I think Gordon move aside. I think Big Nick's going to be the penalty taker moving forward, surely.
Well, I tell you what, those goals from Gordon were bloody nice as well, mind you.
Absolutely they were.
But I don't know, like. He does hit it on the side of his foot. He doesn't kind of just toe poke blammo it or something like that. I might be a little bit nervous when he next steps up for a penalty because I'm thinking, God Almighty, I don't know if my heart can take these kind of bizarro will penalties. But look, it went in. That is 3 goals in 3 home games for Nick now. That's on par with Alan Shearer and Sir Les. Pretty rarefied air that he's in there, rarefied company. Kind of amazing that no one else has done that in the last 20, 30 years or whatever it is, but nonetheless, that's where he is. And he's settling really well, isn't he? That we had the Bayern Munich, was it Bayern Munich's manager or director of football or somebody coming out?
Yeah,
calling us basically useful idiots for having spent all these millions on Nick, and they could have bought him if they had wanted to. They just didn't want to spend so much. It's like, all right, yeah, well, you know what? He's scoring all these goals, mate. You look like a right tosser coming out with that kind of nonsense. How do you? This is kind of getting ahead a little bit here, but do you think Eddie would be tempted to play Wissa and Nick at the same time from the start, in the sense that because Nick isn't really a proper 9, he's sort of somewhere in between 9 and 10. You know how he likes kind of to drop, he likes to do the little touches, the flicks around the corners, and then kind of run around and get onto it. I feel like that would be ideal for someone like Wissa, who's just sitting there ready to kind of latch onto those little tap ins and bury it,
Yeah.
But then Eddie doesn't really play with 2 up front. So how do you think like we'd ever see something like that, where maybe it's a 4-4-1-1, or I don't know, whatever it might look like? Do you think we ever might see that?
I think so, because Walter Marto's, he's more a number 10 really than a number 9. He's just 6'7", and that's why he plays up front, because he's 6'7". But he prefers to be on the ball than play the old traditional number 9 role. And you're right. There's sometimes when he does drop deeper, we don't have that runner going in behind him, or we don't have that poacher in the box who's ready for that flick on, or is ready for those crosses coming in from Gordon, or crosses coming in from Murph or Alanga. So Wissa would be the perfect complement to Altamata for sure. I mean, I'm guessing from the start they're probably going to be rotating one in, one out, but I wouldn't put it past Eddie trialing it at the very least, and even for half an hour at the end of games to see how it goes, because they're two very different skill sets, and I think they would definitely complement each other because they're both not natural number 9s, so they're not competing for the same sort of position on the pitch. And Walter Marty, you can see he's just desperate to play 1-2s with people, and his touch is so clean. You just got to get close to him, and we need to get more players around him. And obviously, as we get more familiar with him, we'll probably get better at doing that. But he's very clever, turning the ball around the corner, finding his man. He spreads the ball really well to the wingers. I've noticed every time he shields the ball in the middle, he gets it out quickly to whether it's Alanga or Gordon, so they can stand up their fullback. So I think that's a good.
He's really good at receiving a hot ball as well. You know, it's not always. It doesn't always have to be a perfect ball to his feet.
No.
He's actually quite adept at receiving it, coming in with a bit of stink on it, and controlling it, even with pressure behind him. And then, as you say, spreading out wide. He seems to have a wide range of skills.
Oh, he's got unbelievable technique. He reminds me, obviously not. He's obviously a lot taller than this bloke, but he reminds me a bit of Berbatov. Berbatov was a bigger striker, but he wasn't your traditional 6'4", 6'5" striker. He was very cultured, very technical, and adept on the ball. And Walter Marta is like that. Obviously, he's still young. He's still only 21 years old, and physically, you can see some centre backs really start to get into him physically. And I mean, even sometimes today, the referees weren't really protecting him because his shirt was being ripped off from time to time, and he wasn't getting any fouls as well. But he'll adapt to the Premier League because it's going to be a different style to he's used to. He's going to have to play back to goal at times, but I think that's a good shout. When Wissa is fit, I think those two can work really well together, and that would be a very dangerous front two.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Wissa in this team. But to have someone like Nick receiving the ball and moving it forward for him to get on the end of that, that's pretty exciting for me. All right, well, look, the game ends 2-0. I think there's about 6 minutes of extra time, so we didn't manage to balls it up in that time for once. And we are now up to 11th on 9 points. I've got the table on the screen there. Brighton, our next opponents after the international break, are pretty much exactly the same as us. We have one more goal difference than they do. But otherwise, there's 2 wins, 3 draws, and 2 defeats for the two teams. 7 points off the top. Not too bad, really. We're 7 games in. We've had some Champions League games. We've won one, lost the other one against Barcelona. In 11th, Nick's starting to find his form. I still don't think the team's quite where it probably would expect to be, but then there's been a fair bit of change and some injuries, so we're kind of dealing with a few things at the same time, as are other teams in fairness. But can you sum up how you feel about the start of the season as it is, and the fact that we are in 11th now in the league, and are you happy with how it's gone so far?
Yeah, obviously we're not overly happy because we want to be higher up the table, and there's probably a couple of games at home where we've thrown points away in the 96th minute, which is frustrating. If you add 2 points to that total, we're sitting in 7th, 5 points off the top, 3 points off third, or if we even hold on against Arsenal, we're sitting at 12 points there, and then all of a sudden we're right up amongst it. But I think the one thing for me that's encouraging in terms of our start to the season is our defending, and the fact that we're keeping a lot of clean sheets. When we were good, and I said this on another pod with Jack, when we were good that first Champions League campaign season, or when we made top 4, with Eddie, we had the best defence in the Premier League, or second best defence behind Man City. And that was the basis for our sort of rise up the table. We weren't winning 5-6-0 every week, but we were able to keep clean sheets home, away, and that eventually accumulated to the points where we finished in the top 4. So I think the attack will come. They're obviously going to build their combinations, build their familiarity. It's going to take time with Whistler when he comes back, Ramsey as well. But if you can build a team around your solid defense, and I mean, we haven't even touched on how good Chow and Botman have been. I think those two have been sensational. I'd be staggered if they come out of the starting lineup anytime soon, even when everyone's fit. And that's unfortunate for Shah and Byrne, but these two look a class above even Shah and Byrne. So if we're building that strength from the back and not giving up many goals per game, I think that puts us in a good position where when we do start clicking with a bit more continuity up front, we'll shoot up the table.
With any luck. All right, look, we'll leave it there. Newcastle 2, Forest 0, up to 11th. Got a couple of weeks to get over some little niggle and injuries, probably. And we'll see how we are for Brighton, who we are historically shit against. So God knows what will happen there. But, you know, they didn't beat Wolves. We did. So there you go. They aren't the ultimate team or anything. But anyway, so we'll leave it there, Dimi. Thank you very much for your time, mate. Thanks to everyone who's watched and listened. And we shall see you for the next one. How are the Toon?